How can publishers make money from video? I'm James Evelegh, the editor of InPublishing, and I'll be exploring that question with Simon Elliott from Video. Video provide audio and video services for publishers. Simon, what are the most important things publishers need to know about video?
The most important thing they need to know is that they can make money from it. An interview like this becomes a product in itself, which is sponsorable and which will grow audience in and of itself. But an interview or a video podcast becomes a content engine for the rest of your platform. Across all your socials, it feeds video in. It gives you a regular supply of video, and that will grow your audience. Growing your audience and then selling your audience is what all publishers want to do. And video is one of the fastest ways to do it. The stats are out there. And I think one of the single most important things that they need to remember is that their content isn't special. It's a hard lesson for publishers to learn sometimes. Sometimes they think, oh, my audience is so loyal that they will pay attention. They will listen through a long intro. They will not mind if we're a bit slow. They won't mind poor quality. You're competing. Even to your loyal audience, you're competing in the attention economy. And you need to make sure that your video keeps delivering.
So a lot of publishers have tried video before and it's failed. What's your message to them?
Respectfully, they've quite often tried video that's not very good. Just what I was talking about. It needs to be good enough to compete. We're not trying to make Star Wars or the latest Marvel movie. What we're trying to do is make in focus, decent sound that's framed well, and delivers for them. People will forgive plenty, but they won't forgive below a certain standard. So I think it's just remembering that, when they talk about video, I think the other thing that they've quite often feel like they've tried video is that they haven't presented it very well. Thumbnails and titles are vitally important. Publishers have these skills. It's headlines and SEO. That's all it is, with a bit of imagery. Publishers have these skills all day long, but they don't use them when it comes to video. They'll put a video on YouTube and it'll just have a random still of something that happened in the video, rather than presenting the best case for the person to watch that video. Again, it's a competition. Another reason that video has failed for publishers is that they don't do it for long enough. They don't keep showing up. They basically, from what I can tell and from conversations I've had, video for publishers has been person specific. So someone will come in, say, we should do video. They try video for a few months. They might not have delivered the best quality, but they've tried. And then it's like, oh, this isn't making any money. It's costing us time. Let's not do it. And the trick is keep showing up, keep learning, deliver a better and better product, and your video will start to pay for itself. It's not a free ride.
And the $1 million question, Simon, how can publishers make money from video?
So the easiest and most straightforward way is sponsorship of video. It's as simple as that. If you look at some of the formats, video podcasts lend themselves very well to magazine titles, and they are eminently sponsorable. I think there's a thing I call the field of dreams problem, where people want to get sponsorship before they build an audience. Now, they wouldn't do it for a magazine, but they want to do it for video. I'm not sure that quite works, although there are some things you can do to try and get sponsorship very early on. But yeah, sponsorship is where the money is sponsorship of whole series, sponsorship of specific episodes. So you will have, say you've got a video podcast series and you've got 12 episodes, and you might make one of those a partner episode. So that's where you can give someone who sponsored the whole series real value. You can give them an interview, not a million miles away from what we're doing now, where they can talk about what they do, talk about something that's of interest to the audience and that they possibly provide a solution to. It doesn't have to be massively promotional, but for the sponsor, it's brand awareness. The other thing that you can look at is in making sure that any sponsor of your video, if it's a podcast or other kind of video, is included in the marketing of that video, so that they are, especially early on, getting value and being seen on as many of your platforms as possible. So yeah, sponsorship of whole series, sponsorship of, partner episodes. And then the other way to make money from video, I think the thing you've got to remember is that a lot of clients of publishers aren't media companies. Obviously, magazine publishers are media companies, and they tell stories. So you can become the middleman and provide video to your clients. That's a great way to do it. One really good example that I'm actually going to be doing is going to a trade show. We'll take a crew there for the day, interview people on their stands, provide them with video. The people who we interview will pay the people who are running the event. So suddenly, for a cost of, say, 1,500 quid for having me and a crew there for the day, plus maybe a bit more for some post-editing, you go and charge people 500 quid per interview. And then suddenly you've only got to get 5 and you're in profit. And if you've got a big enough show, you can actually do really well out of it. So that's one, become a video supplier and also get sponsorship of your video products. Also, another video product that you can do, and I think you've got some experience of this, is in things like event coverage. What was the one that you did where you did like a round table? Is that a round table?
Yes, a round table in London a few years ago. That's right. Yes.
And I think you got sponsorship of that. And then suddenly you can make video pay. I think it was relatively speaking, a one-off. But how did that work for you?
It worked very well. The video was primarily as a promotional device after the event. So we didn't video the event itself. We videoed outtakes at the end, participant reaction, and then we use that to promote the fact that we offer that and promote the various write-ups and associated things we did around it.
The thing that gives sponsors of your event is a digital asset that they can use to their heart's content. So you are instantly making more for your sponsors, and sponsors want digital. It's that probably better than I do. So yeah, there's a variety of ways to make money. I don't think I've even covered them all there.
And what about ad income from platforms like YouTube and Spotify?
Especially early on, platform income, platform ads aren't going to make you any money. They're simply not. I ran a YouTube channel with 500,000 subscribers and 5 million viewers a month, which cost quite a lot of money, but I had a government contract to do it, so it was fine. It made about 40 grand a year, and that's with 5 million viewers a month and 500,000 subscribers. So if you're starting out, ad income, if you're lucky, you'll be, once you get monetized, 100 quid, 200 quid a month if you're lucky. Might pay for your Christmas drinks.
Okay.
But, it's not something to really consider. You need to be building an audience, aim at building an audience, monetize that audience through sponsorship.
And what kind of video formats do you find work well for publishers?
Well, I touched on it already. I think video podcasts are ideal because they are a natural extension of the brand. And if you think about it, the way to think about a podcast is if you look at the feed, that's the magazine. And if you look at the individual episode, that's the article. So you do it, that's how it works. And video podcasts are a really good way to do things because the other thing they do is they provide you with regular video. I think, I've talked to people about ad sales and things like that in magazines, and the phrase they use almost universally is keep showing up. And, you need to keep showing up.
A lot of editors and publishers simply feel overwhelmed by what's needed to make video. What's your advice to them?
So my advice to them is actually it's getting easier. It's getting easier and cheaper to make video. We're recording on a service called Riverside.fm. And if people have really got no money but can perhaps invest a little bit of time, you can make a video podcast with the Riverside FM. You can do remote interviews like we're doing now, and you can use a text-based editing system in there, and you can make a video podcast, and suddenly you've got a video product, and you will learn lots about it. I mean, I would say that overwhelm thing comes from all the things that you need to do around video. The same with publishing a magazine. There's a lot of detail that is second nature to editors and publishers. Whereas with video, I guess someone like me, it's second nature to me. But there is a lot of things that go around publishing video. So you've got to make sure that you've got a thumbnail. You've got to make sure your title, I keep saying this, but SEO. You've got to make sure that it's the metadata is correct. And that's what people mean by the overwhelm, as well as a bit of fear of the technical as well. So I get it. It's getting more and more doable. And I think it's that classic thing. If you asked me to publish a magazine, I started in magazines. I started on Professional Electrician magazine at Hamerville in Watford my first full-time job. But that was quite a while ago now. And if you asked me to deliver a professional level magazine now, I couldn't do it. I might know where to start, but I'd get lost pretty quickly. And I think the trick with video is spend a bit of time learning how to do it, or get hold of a company like mine and go through the process.
So why aren't publishers producing more video?
Publishers have what I would describe as a machine for making magazines. That machine is made up of people, but it is a machine nonetheless. You have all the parts that can build, a magazine. And they need to, if they're going to deliver video regularly and at a good level, they need to build a machine for that. Now, that might be in-house, and you might bring someone in to produce video for your magazine. You might hire someone to do it. But once you do that, there are things that they need. Most of all, they need enough time. Expecting someone to turn around say an interview like we're doing now, that's a day and a half, 2 days work at least. That's the amount of time it takes. It's an investment. You also need to equip them properly. I cannot emphasize enough how much time people lose because they haven't equipped video makers in their organizations properly. And it's not just publishing, it's all kinds of organizations. If you're going to bring someone in-house, get them a really decent Mac, as good or better than the ones that your page designers use. I've tried laptops for video and they actually just don't work. So there is a cost there. You might want to invest a little bit of money in a camera, but they're getting cheaper. I'm using my phone for this interview. You can get away with using a phone. And then there are services that they need, extensions of Adobe. So Premiere Pro, you might use InDesign for the magazines, but Premiere Pro is one that you can use for editing. To be honest, Premiere Pro, although I use it, is starting to go on the wane, and you might want to look at something like DaVinci Resolve, which is another editing software that you need to get. So there are a variety of costs involved, but what publishers need to do in order to succeed with video, amongst other things, is build a machine either internally or bringing someone in to do it, an external company, have a machine ready to make it, be set up. So, we've both set up for this interview today. I've got £30 worth of light. I hope you're very impressed. And I've spent a bit of money on my microphone. Sadly, what I found out afterwards was that I didn't need to, because there's a much cheaper one. So that was a real comfort for me.
Sometimes, Simon, as we all know, good quality video fails. Why might that be?
One of the biggest reasons that decent quality video fails is because it's badly packaged. People talk about video packaging. Now, think about YouTube, because it's a platform we all know. Thumbnails. You need a good thumbnail. You need 5 words or less. You need good, consistent branding. You need probably a decent image on there. You don't have to do one of those goonish poses that people do, but you do need some decent imagery on there. A lot of thumbnails now tell their story without any words at all, and that's quite a good way of doing it, and those are quite successful. So thumbnails are really important. Titles are super important. They are eminently searchable. YouTube and all the platforms, their algorithm looks for information. Algorithms don't know what your video is about. Titles tell them what it's about. So in the same way that, people wax and wane with SEO-packed headlines, you need to use keywords in your titles, and you need to use them early in your titles. And then it's metadata and making sure your uploading process is properly done. So lots of publishers I've seen have put videos up, and they might have done a thumbnail and they might have done a title, but then there's no information. The video description that you use on YouTube, but it's the same across most platforms, is really important, because again, you are reinforcing, you are telling the algorithm what your video is about. The great thing is, if you get this right, that's where you find audience. That's where actually the algorithm will do the work for you. A lot of what I think video is really for is about growth and discovery of your brand and your products. And if you get that uploading, that packaging right, you get people to watch your video, the algorithm will do the work for you. If you found some audience, it will go, oh, well, we know other people like that. We'll show your video to them. Publishers know that's what algorithms are for, and it's the same for video.
And is there a risk of clickbaiting people?
So clickbait's a really interesting one, and people quite often say that thumbnails are quite often clickbaity. I don't think they need to be, and I don't actually think they are. As long as the thumbnail describes what actually happens in the video, it's not clickbait. We've all clicked on headlines where the article doesn't match the headline, and that's clickbait. So if your video matches the thumbnail and the headline and the description, then it's not clickbait. And just because what you're doing is you're telling the punchiest, best version of what your video is about.
Many publishers are put off by the workload involved in video. What can be done about that?
I think quite often video feels like a lot of work for publishers because they come back to it once a month or once every couple of months and they're learning again. And that feels like real work. Whereas actually, if you've built that machine that I talked about earlier, your video is delivered in the shape you want it. One thing that worries me slightly is when people in publishing houses go, oh, let's bring in, a first jobber or an early second jobber and get them to make video because kids make video. And then they're not surrounded by people who make video. And I think that's a real risk for publishers. So make sure that they're properly supported. Obviously, you can bring a company in like mine that pick up the workload end to end. And what you do is you basically work with them to make sure you get a product that you want delivered.
Now, Simon, before I ask you to wrap things up with your 3 top tips, can you tell us what's in the pipeline from Crowdfinder Video?
So yeah, actually, this very morning, I finished a proposal for actually a corporate, nothing to do with publishing, making it for a company that does plant hire. So I'm going to pick up their social campaigns, and I continue to make the Making Money for Magazines podcast with the International Magazine Centre, Africa Here and Now podcast, which has been a great success actually because we've enacted some of the changes around that podcast. That I talked about, making sure that thumbnails are better, making sure that titles and uploads are done correctly. And we've managed to take them, they'd got to 800 subscribers in 3 years. And in the 5 months I've involved, we've managed to get them up to pretty close to 5,000. I suspect it'll be 5,000 by the time this goes out. So yeah, continue. And we make 2 or 3 episodes of that a month. And that's good fun. I know I had a text the other day from the leader of the Ugandan opposition, which is great. Why not? I was happy to hear from him.
Brilliant. Finally, Simon, what are your 3 top tips for publishers when it comes to making money from video?
So the 3 most important things that people need to know are your video needs a hook at the start. It needs, in the first few seconds, to make a promise to the viewer, to create a curiosity gap. We did it at the start of this video. You said, how can publishers make money from video? Publishers should probably or would probably want to watch after that because you're providing a path to them making money. The second thing they need to know is packaging is so important. Titles and thumbnails, thumbnails and titles. It is pretty much the most important thing that you need to do. And the last thing they need to know about is the hovering thumb of doom. We all scroll. We all sit there flicking through socials and we are dying to move on to the next thing. And the thing that will stop the hovering thumb of doom flicking on is pace. You need pace in your videos. Pace doesn't mean talking really fast. It means constantly delivering on the promise that you make at the start of your video. Every few seconds, you need to deliver either entertainment or information to your viewers. And that's what pace is. And that keeps the hovering thumb of doom away.
Great stuff. Simon, many thanks for those insights into how we as publishers can make money out of video. If you would like to explore opportunities with Simon further, then do check out his website, crowdfindervideo.com. Thank you for watching.